So if you think this is just some politician in front of you just talking and giving you his direction and will, you have missed the mark. This battle has always been spiritual against the dark forces that no man can see. The real leaders of this earth never show themselves on television. They never show themselves to the world. They've always worked behind closed doors. Okay? Finish reading.
Verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days.
That's how we know, folks, beyond any shadow of a doubt, these are not regular marriages in the days of Noah. Because the offspring of this between women, the Nephilim, or what you would call the fallen ones, and women, they begin to produce Nephilim, hybrid people, giants, as an offspring.
Giants are found in the myths and legends of many different cultures. Their appearance rarely differs much from an ordinary human. For example, the Cyclops in the Odyssey, written by Homer, besides being a giant, was generally human-looking, except for that one big eye in the center of his forehead. The Bible mentions in passing a divine origin for ancient giants, and in Scandinavian legends, giants actually confront the gods. Quote, "At that time there were giants on the earth, since the sons of God began to enter the daughters of men, and began to give birth to them. They are strong, anciently glorious people." End quote. Why did people on different continents and in such disparate civilizations have such similar stories about giants? Is it possible that these are remnants of memories of certain ancient civilizations? A medieval Danish historian, wonderfully named Saxo Grammaticus, assumed that the giants really existed. Else, how to explain the giant-sized buildings and structures of antiquity? Many written sources of those years do speak of such things. For example, in the Old English poem Seafarer, a tale is told of enormous stone walls supposedly built by giants. There is also mention of giant beings in a number of historical documents. Herodotus writes of the Spartans acquiring the bones of the warrior Orestes to help with a military campaign. The skeleton is noted to have had a height of 7 cubits. That's 11.5 feet or 3.5 meters in modern terms. The ancient Greek scholar Pausanias described how a skeleton of a man of about 18 feet or 5.5 meters tall was found on the bottom of a river. Josephus Flavius, a Roman historian, transcribed the testimonies of eyewitnesses who saw live giants themselves. These observers reported that the giants' faces were different from ordinary human faces, and that the towering creatures possessed thundering voices. A number of 13-foot-tall skeletons, that's 4 meters for you metric aficionados, were excavated in the Caucasus Mountains during the 20th century. The presence of such a large number of skeletal remains allowed scientists to assume that the giants moved here in search of salvation after some global catastrophe. Here they found their final shelter and resting place. In one very old book entitled History and Antiquity, now stored at the Oxford University Library, there is an account of the discovery in the Middle Ages of a giant skeleton in Cumberland. Quote, "The giant is buried in the ground at a depth of 4 yards and is in full military garb. His sword and battle axe are resting next to him. The length of the skeleton is 4.5 yards, and the teeth of the big man are measured at 6.5 inches long and 2 broad." End quote. Adding to the evidence verifying the existence of giants are numerous gigantic fossilized footprints. For example, an imprint of a human foot 80 centimeters or 2.5 feet in length has been unearthed in Tanzania. A series of handprints was found next to traces of dinosaurs near a village in Turkmenistan. The height of the giant that left them is estimated at about 5 meters, almost 16.5 feet. A human tooth 5 times larger than an ordinary man's tooth was found in Hong Kong in 1935. A 60-centimeter or 2-foot-high human skull with 2 rows of teeth was found in Alaska in 1950. And a 50-foot-long petrified human skeleton that's 15 meters, folks, was found in Mongolia in 1999. The sheer plethora of evidence allows us to state unequivocally that giants did indeed once exist. But whether they were a single people who settled all over the earth or belonged to different races, this is a question which scientists have yet to unambiguously answer. But if giants really existed, and not only in myth and legend, then it stands to reason that other traces of their lives should also exist. For example, architectural structures and other such objects. In the opinion of a number of scientists, the numerous megalithic objects that have been discovered all over the earth serve as proof of the prior existence of giants. Even in our time, with modern technology, it is extremely difficult to build such monumental objects. Without some kind of mechanical lifting mechanisms, it seems that it would have been virtually impossible. And yet, they exist. This is the famous Baalbek Terrace located in Lebanon near Beirut. 3 huge stone slabs, each weighing about 800 tons, are embedded in its base. The plates are identical and fit together so seamlessly that one cannot even insert the blade of a knife between them. Researchers calculated that to install just one such stone block, 21 meters wide and 54 meters long, would require the simultaneous effort of at least 35,000 people. Who, how, and why did they do it? Handwritten Arabic treatises say that the structure was built as a temple of Jupiter and that the giant beings built it on the orders of King Nimrod just after the flood. The ancient city of Teotihuacan, the City of Gods, is located 31 miles from Mexico City and is an entire complex of huge stone blocks. According to the most common historical version of events, the city was built by giants to turn people into gods. Its layout resembles a model of the solar system. From the central temple, which embodies the sun, regarding objects that giants might have built, scholars also include the Egyptian Sphinx, the English Stonehenge, the stone figures of Easter Island, and the Tibetan City of the Gods. Not only are these structures themselves amazing, but also their geometrical connection with each other. For example, a line drawn from the Tibetan City of Gods to the Egyptian Sphinx, if continued, leads directly to Easter Island. And another line from the City of Gods through the Mexican pyramids also goes to Easter Island. These two lines delineate 1/4 of the Earth's surface, and a line drawn from the City of the Gods to Stonehenge divides this quarter exactly in half. And what about modern people who are giants? One view is that the life and then disappearance of these giants is related to some cataclysm. After the disaster, the size of the giants gradually decreased. The Asuras, inhabitants of the legendary continent of Lemuria, reached a height of 50 meters or 160 feet. As a result of the catastrophe, the continent divided, and the once united race of giants were now isolated from each other. The successors of the Asuras were 18 meters tall, that's about 60 feet, and their successors 6 meters or about 20 feet tall. As a result of these new environmental conditions in the world, the giants in many areas died out. But in some areas, they managed to survive. Of course, such a theory runs counter to the teachings of Darwin, but it is this theory that most plausibly explains the existence of the giants. What do you think?
And the giants required sacrifice. And the giants required sacrifice.
The Anasazi were an ancient people that flourished in the Four Corners region of the United States for thousands of years, until something drove them into the cliffs of the canyons and they disappeared. The official story says that the Anasazi simply migrated out of the region because of drought. But the fortresses they built in the cliffs before their sudden disappearance suggest something much more gruesome may have happened. Legend records that giants devoured them all.
To get to the bottom of the story of the Anasazi, we had the rare opportunity of meeting with a third-generation medicine man by the name of Dr. Don Mose, who is an academic in the Navajo Nation. And I asked him specifically, what happened with the Anasazi, these legendary pre-Pueblo Indians that lived around Mesa Verde and Chaco Canyon, but they seemed to disappear literally overnight. And so Dr. Mose begins telling us the story that is the sanitized version that you might even hear from some of the State Parks Department guides about how there was an extended drought. And so they slowly migrated out of the Four Corners area of the United States and later on became the Hopi, the Zuni, other Pueblo Indians of today. But when I challenged that and said, well, why then, if they slowly migrated out of the Four Corners area, did they leave behind everything that would have been important to them? And when I ask him that question, he looks right into the camera and he says, well, I should not tell you this, but if you would have asked my great-grandfather, here's the story that he would have told. And then he begins telling this epic, if you will, of a time before time when doorways in the Four Corners area of the United States opened and giants came up from out of the earth and began persecuting and cannibalizing the Anasazi, and the Anasazi fled for their lives. And this was the first great clue that we had, that if we went back to the original stories of the Pueblo Indians, we would receive an entirely different narrative that involved the arrival of this reptilian being that deceived the Anasazi, that taught them how to use their kivas for pharmakia, what Dr. Mose called sorcery.
Pharmaceuticals? The Bible says in the New Testament, the word of witchcraft, which is sin, means pharmaceuticals and medication, sorcery, poison, witchcraft. Wake up. Your doctors would be called witch doctors back in the day. Christ wasn't giving people drugs, pharmaceuticals, medicine, and all that for sicknesses. He was casting the sickness out. He was casting demons out in Yeshua name, because the letter J didn't exist. There was no words with J's in it when Christ was alive. Okay? So, and Christ wasn't doing exorcisms. He was casting out demons in Yeshua name. Exorcisms is pagan and does nothing. So, wake up, follow the Bible. No Christianity. Christianity don't teach you the Bible. They lie on Christ. Wake up.
And in those key,
And these fallen angels are aliens or fallen angels. There is no aliens. And their sons are the giants. And those giants, when they die, become demons. If you're a man or whatever, or human, you go away judgment. So there is no ghost. So wake up. Okay? And your governments are Satanists.
that were excavated.
And work with these things. Your government. Sacrifice children to these things. All right? Moai sacrifice. So wake up.
Pharmakia, what Dr. Mose called sorcery. And in those kivas that were excavated around Chaco Canyon, artifacts were found that indicated ritual cannibalism had started among the Anasazi. Teeth bones, finger bones, found inside their kivas, which Dr. Mose said was a kind of witchcraft that led the Anasazi to opening these doorways of the earth through which the giants came.
In the oral tradition of many tribes, I've yet to come across a tribal member from a tribe that does not have stories of giants roaming the land. And the way, as my father told me, and as it was told to him by his father, my grandfather, and passed down, the star people came from the Seven Sisters. The Seven Sisters being what we call the constellation of the Pleiades. the Seven Sisters and also the Warrior's Belt, which we know today as Orion.
Stars are angels. It's fallen angels coming down from heaven, like Satan. And they control the world, they control your religion, holidays, they control your governments. Wake up. It's Satan's world until Christ returns. Satan deceived the whole world, 9% will fall, 10% be the remnant. Follow laws and commandments, get baptized, follow Christ Yeshua and the Most High, and read the Bible. Get out of all religions, get out of Christianity, get out of Catholic. Wake up. Okay? UFOs and all that are just fallen angels, demons, Nephilim, giants. Fallen angels, the fathers, the kids, the giants, and when those kids die, the giants, Nephilim, they become demons. And when you sin, when you take drugs, when sin is breaking out of the laws and commandments, you get possessed by those demons. Society normalizes sin. They gives you demons through healthcare system with those drugs and medication. It's sorcery. Wake up. Okay.
So from the belt of Orion, from that belt and from the Seven Sisters is where these star people came from. And the star people would come, they made themselves out to be gods because they had power. They had big medicine, like our people say. They were able to do great feats that the people were just astonished by. And so they took them to be gods because that's what they presented themselves to be.
That's where you get your paganism from. People think they're deceived into thinking the fallen ones that come down, UFOs and all that, technology, power, fallen angels, celestials. They're deceived into believing angels, fallen angels, is gods. That's why the Bible tells you the gods of the nation are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. So when the angels came down because they sinned, people started worshiping them as gods and sacrificing their children, Moloch sacrifice, because they required that. So wake up, okay? There is no aliens, they're fallen angels.
In that manner is how they then went and took the women from the different tribes. And from there is where the giant tribes were.
Genesis 6:4. There was giants in those days, and after that, before the flood, after the flood, in those days, where the sons of God, the angels, fallen angels, came down, sinned, and dealt with the daughters of men, and made giants, Nephilim. Wake up.
Birthed from. The women did not survive the births.
If giants exist, fallen angels automatically exist, and that means Satan exists. That means the Bible is real. Wake up. The Bible has been proven as real history, not religion. Everything you know about Christianity and Catholic religions, it has nothing to do with the Bible or Christ. Get that out of your mind. That's a program. That's a lie. Okay? You better wake up.
Of these giant beings. But as these giants continue to procreate and continue to spread across the land, there's many stories of the people and the tribes fighting against them. Sometimes, with good results, sometimes with bad results. Until eventually there was a culmination of the flood that came and destroyed the giants off the land. We still have some stories of giants after the flood. Ishtipapa, which was a giant that lived in Georgia among the Muskogee Creek. Ishtipapa means man-eaters. Because these giant beings would just come and take a regular-sized human being and just pick them up and just bite their head off. Like popping the cap on a bottle. Boom, 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 boom. So they received the name Ishtipapa, man-eater. The origin of them is not something that I know of that our oral tradition goes into. Like who created them.
I know the origin. See, the Bible gives you all the answers. And this is just, there's giants in all cultures. So it's not just some religious belief, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's a known fact that they existed. Even in Afghanistan, there's true stories of it. The soldiers, they know there's giants and stuff. It's just anything to be against the Bible. They'd rather you believe in evolution be atheist so you can go to hell. Anything that vilifies the Bible, they'll demonize and be against. It won't push. So the origin of all this stuff is from the Bible. Okay, the Bible is the only truth, the only path. Wake up, believe it or not. Time and chance come to all men, so in judgment there's no excuse. And again, throw away Christianity, throw away religions. They're all Satan. They're all under Satan. The Bible and the real Christ Yeshua, dark skin, white hair, has nothing to do with that. You wake up or stay deceived. Your judgment, your choice. Go read that Bible and throw away everything you know about Christianity. Okay? 90% will fall, 10% be the remnant. Be the 10%. You can't follow and think like everybody else. Wake up. Satan deceived the whole world. It's Satan's world until Christ returns, as the Bible says. Hosea 4:6, God's people die for lack of knowledge. It says, you reject knowledge, I will reject you. That knowledge is the Bible. Okay?
How did they begin? We don't have that. All we know is where they came from, and what constellations they came from to our people. And
fallen angels came down from heaven. Stars are angels. They sinned with the daughters of men and made giants. That's their origin. That's a fact. Not my opinion, not Christianity, or nothing. Okay? That's the Bible.
The giant races,
The Bible, King James Version only. 80 books. Only King James Version. They lied on him too. Just like they lied on Christ. King James.
they varied in height. They were the ones who built a lot of these ancient mound structures.
And by the way, Jewish people are Romans from Esau. They're the synagogue of Satan. They don't follow the Bible at all. They don't believe in Christ. They're not the people. When the true people go on their land, there'd be no more war and all that stuff. They're not the people at all. They fit zero prophecies. They're Romans. So don't go thinking that the Jews are the white people, the Europeans. They're not the Jews. So wake up.
Simply didn't have the technology to do it. The regular sized human beings have the time to do it? Yes. And there are copies of mounds that have been made. Just like there's the 3 pyramids in Egypt, 2 of those pyramids are copies of the oldest one. But they could not quite match the engineering, the architecture, the ley lines. They couldn't do it. So yes, there are mounds that native people have built, but they're a far cry from these gigantic mound structures that the giants built. It is good to mention that the stars, the constellations, the astronomy of the ley lines of the constellations, that's something that was taught to us by the star people.
Exactly. The Bible tells you when the fallen angels came down, they taught astrology, like your zodiac signs, the horoscopes, the stars and all that, the signs of heaven or whatever, the stars. Fallen angels taught that. And he was just saying how they came down and was, and they started worshiping them as gods, and they started doing witchcraft and sacrificing people because of those same satanic, demonic fallen angels, and started having sex with their women and making giants. That's all biblical. That's all the Bible. Wake up. And that's real life. That's not a belief, in my opinion, or a theology. That's real life. You better wake up. They got skeletons of these things everywhere. Wake up. The only truth is the Bible. Only path. Nothing else.
It was knowledge that was given to our ancient ancestors. And the belief was
satanic knowledge. Sin.
That there were certain times during certain seasons.
And they taught them all magic. All magic is bad. It deals with demons. Okay? If you want healing and protection or whatever, get that from Christ, not from a demon. Not using magic.
Where there were portals that would open up into the spirit world.
There is portals. That's what they do with these demonic rituals. They open up portals and stuff. Stargates. Doorways.
The belief was that there were certain times during certain seasons where there were portals that would open up into the spirit world. And markedly, the equinoxes were the main times when this would take place. At Okmulgee, Georgia, in Macon, Georgia, modern-day Macon, Georgia, there's the remains of an earth lodge that is perfectly aligned for the summer equinoxes and the spring equinoxes. And so it was believed that when the people would gather there during those times, that those portals would open, those doorways would open, and it would open the lines of communication.
Satanic rituals, conjuring of demons. The Druids, Satanists, witches and warlocks. The solstice, winter solstice and all that. That's your holidays like Easter. Opening up portals for demons. And they sacrifice kids, Moloch sacrifice, which is in Europe today, the Moloch statue, which is Satan. Baal. Wake up. This is Satan's world until Christ returns. All this is Satanism and witchcraft and sorcery. Dealing with demons, fallen angels. Wake up. This has nothing to do with Christ or the Bible. The Bible just gives you the origin of how this wickedness started, and you know, where the Bible gives you the origin of how this wickedness, where it came from, how it started. You know what I'm saying?
These spirit beings to come through, and whether it was teach, trade, or even take people with them, they would do that.
They're your alien abductions. And by the way, these things had UFOs and all that too. That's angel technology. This is all the Bible right here. But the Bible has all the answers.
Like Og and others, eating people, sacrificing people, putting mankind, God's chosen, under servitude. This is way more complex than what they're teaching in the Christian church, folks. Christ was highlighting the true leaders of this earth. When Adam gave his dominion through sin, Job 9:24 tells us that the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. And they would have a time to rule in this earth until judgment. All the empires in this earth, empires of the earth, were under the guidance of the wicked. And the whole world will be under the hand of the wicked until Christ returns.
Exactly. That's why you see all this shit happening right now. So don't go blaming the Most High. It's Satan. So fallen angels, demons, run the planet until Christ returns. That's a fact. Believe it or not. That's a fact. So Satan controls all the governments, holidays, and religions. Your politicians, presidents are puppets. Right? They're all controlled by the Jewish people at the top. Synagogue of Satan, then they follow Satan directly. They sacrifice children because Satan requires blood sacrifice, kill people and all that. Pre-planned wars just to get the sacrifices out the way. 9/11, all sacrifices to Satan. Holocaust means burn sacrifice, all that shit. Bro, wake up. Systematic genocide deep through the healthcare system. Wake up.